If you can't leave your business for, let's say, a week without it collapsing, you haven't really reached entrepreneur status, right? You are a business owner. You really pretty much own a job.
This episode is all about scaling your business and designing it to run without you having to be in it constantly. Dondre talks to us about using a mental framework of urgency, importance, and identifying what only you can do for figuring out what to delegate. Then he also walks us through how he actually builds systems that allow others to pick up work effectively. We also talk about hiring in-house versus external agencies and why getting proven revenue streams in place is a critical first step to getting funding. Let's dive in. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Main Street Makers. Today, I'm really excited to welcome Dondre Smith, founder and CEO of Almighty Clothing, a luxury streetwear fashion house based in Chicago. They design and carry items like sweatshirts and hoodies with men, women, and children lines. Dondre is also a business coach here at NAV. Welcome.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you today because you have so much experience in really scaling a business. And so I'm really looking forward to digging into how you did that and how you help others do that too. So, but first, before we get into all of that, I'd love for you to just tell me a little bit about your business and how and why you started it.
Absolutely. So my brand is called Almighty. It's Almighty spelled with a V. The V stands for vision because without vision, the people perish. So I started my brand 11 years ago. July will mark 12 years. So we're getting prepared for our 12-year brand anniversary in July. But I started the brand because honestly, when I was in high school, I was always looking for clothing that was unique and different. And so there was a couple underground brands that I liked, but it was a lot of things that I was looking for that I couldn't find. So I started what I wanted to see. As I continued to go on my journey with being an entrepreneur, I was a first time e-commerce entrepreneur in my family, so entrepreneurship, learning what it means to actually become an entrepreneur, the type of mindset you have to have, the financial literacy that you have to have understanding of. It helped me to eventually become someone who not only doing this for myself, but doing it for other people. And so I have a deep relationship with God. And so now I really want to use the brand to be able to bridge that gap between spiritual growth as well as luxury fashion. So that's how I got started. So
I love it. That's really wonderful. Because you talked about family, I kind of want to start there. So you've shared that you've been running the business for 11 years and that running it as a husband and a father is different from when you are a single person. And then you've also shared that your business now runs independently of you, which is really awesome. So my first question is, how do you prioritize your time? What are your non-negotiables?
Absolutely. So these days I live by a calendar. Right. So if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't get done. In the beginning stages, I had to wear every hat. Right. I was the content creator. I was the marketer. A lot of times I was the model and the photographer. I was the designer. I was the customer service person. I was the one that packaged up the orders. Right. So as I continued to run the business and the business continued to grow, I had to learn what could I delegate, what can be done without me, and what is it that I absolutely have to focus on that I cannot delegate or outsource. It was about in 2020, that's when things really started to take off. And so we were getting a lot of orders. And so the first person that I hired was my little brother and my little cousin. And that was the first operation of bringing someone in to actually fulfill the orders because it was so many orders we were getting in that it really wasn't a good use of my time to just be packaging up orders. So I was like, man, why don't I give them an opportunity? At the time, my little cousin was in grade school and my little brother was in college and it also was COVID, right? So why not give them an opportunity to be able to, get in the business, make some additional income on the side, as well as get this experience when it comes to entrepreneurship as well. And so that was the first hire. And then I had to outsource from that and get a 3PL. Because it wasn't necessarily sustainable because my brother was still in college. So after COVID was over, he had to go back to college. And my little cousin was still in grade school, so he still had school. So I had to, hire a 3PO to be able to take care of that, because I just wanted that to be the first thing that was automated and systemized was the distribution. So that was the first thing. And so today, it's really cool because we have another social enterprise that we started back in 2023. So we have a youth program where we teach them how to sew on an industrial sewing machine. And so it's a workforce development program as well as an entrepreneurship program specifically for minority youth on the south and west side of Chicago. So with this entity as well as Almighty, there's a partnership where a lot of the work that we do, because we do all of our pre-production on the south side of Chicago. So with our pre-production and with some of our small batch runs, like the kids line that we're getting ready to drop, we actually have some of our youth have their hands in actually sewing those garments. So just really being able to identify what needs to be delegated, what it is that I know that I'm not able to do that someone else can do, and what it is that I need to focus on that no one else can do. And so that was really the key to be able to continue that process, and also documenting everything, right? Making sure that there's a system and automation in place for everything, so that when it's time to bring someone on, it's a easy transition. Because at first, it wasn't, I was just like, hey, I need, people just willing to help. I'm like, okay, cool, let's help. But I learned that, everything needs to be documented. There has to be a system in place. There has to be automation in place in order to scale a business. Now that I'm a husband and a father, I don't have the time that I had like when I was a college dropout in my 20s, right? So now I'm grateful to be able to have the business run without me having to be in the day-to-days every day.
Yeah. That's incredible. You're getting a lot done and still maintaining, your home and your family life, which is amazing. There's so much I want to dig into there. The first, though, I want to go back to when you made that first hire of your brother and your cousin to help with some of the packaging needs. So when you went throughout that process, you mentioned, oh, it's not a great use of my time. How did you kind of audit all of the things that you were doing and identify that that was the thing that you could give away?
Absolutely. I think it was and this is how I like plan my days too, like understanding what needs to be prioritized and what is urgent, right? Because some things that need to be prioritized aren't urgent, and some things that need to be prioritized is urgent. So getting orders out is a priority and urgency, but it was taking too much of my time in the day. And so then I realized, like, okay, this is important. This is a priority and this is urgent. Orders need to get out as soon as possible. So this is something that I need to delegate, because I need to be making more designs, right? I need to be creating content. So that was that for that. And so now, like, as I continue to grow, well, now that we have a 3PL, now I'm more so outsourcing when it comes to like building up brand partnerships and relationships is something that I used to do, but now that's being outsourced. Now, leveraging artificial intelligence, generative AI, that's something that I learned the skill myself. And so now I'm training people on how to do that, so that we can have even more content that we put out in a more consistent basis. So just like when it comes to what's urgent and what's the priority and how much time is taken up from me, right? So if it's really urgent and it's a high priority and it's taking up too much of my time and it's something that somebody else can do, then that's when it's time to bring somebody else on board to be able to handle that, so that I can focus on the thing that is urgent and important that no one else could do, which to me is like designing, content creation. Other people can do it, but that's what makes you unique as a brand owner, especially these days in content creation. It's a lot of founder-led content. Founders are becoming creators. Creators are becoming founders, and they want to hear directly from the person, because at the end of the day, people buy from people, right? So that's something that I can't outsource, right? So that's where my focus needs to be, especially because like I want to be a present father. So I'm like, in the past, I could work all night, get up early, stay up late, but I cut everything off at like 6, 7 o'clock, right? Really 6 o'clock, so I can be fully present in the home. So, I have to have people in place where it keeps moving and grooving, when I'm in the crib. So.
Yeah. Again, so many rich insights there, and I have so many follow-up questions for you, but I want to stay on the topic of, this idea of like what's urgent and important and what no one else can do. So it sounds like you've kind of identified, obviously, you're irreplaceable as a founder and people want to hear directly from the founder. But also you mentioned content creation and design as like the lanes that you wanted to keep. How did you go about did you kind of just know that was your core skill set? Or did you have to kind of find your way into it? How do you kind of and do you have advice for people who are trying to narrow down onto the thing that only they can do?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I would say that, first of all, I'm a self-taught designer. So I didn't it wasn't that I was just skilled with these things. I didn't go to school for this. I actually went to school to become a pharmacist, and I dropped out of pharmacy school to do the clothing business full time. So it was more so like a calling and a conviction, because I really want to build up God's kingdom through media and through fashion. And so I realized that, the type of pieces that I come out there, a lot of times they're statement pieces. So there's pieces that I want people to start conversations with, right? A lot of my customers, they say that I always get compliments on what I'm wearing, or I'm always people always asking me where you get that from, or I have a conversation about somebody with God because I wore this Overcome the Flesh hoodie, right? And so that's what it's really all about. And so when it comes to the message of the brand, now, don't get me wrong, I do outsource some of the technical aspects of designing, because, again, I'm a self-taught designer. So I am not a graphic designer, right? So I do have a graphic designer. I do have a video editor, right? I'm more so the visionary, but I do have people help me with a lot of the technical aspects of it. Obviously, I'm not sewing all my own clothes, right? Because, again, time, right? Time, and you can only do so much with your own two hands. I don't know if I forgot the question. Did I answer the question?
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Yes, you did. And I think it's a really good point that the thing that you can't outsource is your vision and your taste. You can outsource some of the technical aspects of execution, but you can't outsource that thing that makes you special. And I also think that's pretty pertinent in kind of the age of AI, right? That's a big topic of discussion. Is AI coming for our jobs? And in what way is it coming for our jobs? It can't come from your taste or your vision.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So going back to delegation, you kind of have walked us through how to identify what to delegate. So then I want to talk about how you delegate. You mentioned that you made some mistakes in the beginning, and now you have a pretty good process for creating a system. Can you walk us through step by step what that is?
Yeah. So right now I'm onboarding 2 new hires, one for Almighty and then one for the youth program Create Space. So actually taking time to do training with them and having some type of curriculum that they actually go through is something that I didn't do in the past, right? And then, because, when I think about my journey within the workforce, I spent most of my life being an entrepreneur. So the times that I were in a job, I learned so much about how it should work, right? Because it's I didn't really necessarily know how to necessarily run a business when I started the business. I just knew that I had this vision. I was going to just go with it. So now it's I have a curriculum and I have videos that they walk through. And then I also meet with them and go through specific SOPs, right? When it comes to, for example, right now, someone is learning how to work with generative AI as far as using words to turn them into models and campaigns and products just from their words that looks very human-like, right? And not actually artificial intelligence. So just making sure that the SOPs are there, that everything is outlined step by step, that the schedule is there, right? So they know what they're doing on the hour, every hour. Not to micromanage, but I just know that like sometimes when people don't know what to do and you give them too much free reign, then they just, they might lose focus or they might not be able to just see it all the way through. So really just making sure that I'm outlining every single thing and providing enough curriculum and training. And sometimes the training doesn't just come from me directly. Sometimes I might bring in a trainer, right? Like, for example, for our youth program, we are getting licensed through the Department of Labor through a Detroit company called Isaac. And so they're coming in and training one of my employees on Department of Labor curriculum so that it is a pre-apprenticeship program that is, at the end of the program, they can get certified to work in a manufacturer, right? So, even being able to bring in trainers for certain tasks, it just depends on what it is, or certain curriculum. That's really where we are with it right now. It's just making sure that I really outline the SOPs, that if I need to outsource the training, I outsource the training, or if it's in-house, just making sure that everything is clearly outlined and that I'm spending the proper amount of time with them to make sure that they understand what they're doing and they even take time to see how I do it. And then I give them, their creativity to be able to do it on their own and then give them feedback instead of just be like, okay, this is what to do. And, here you go. Right. That's how I kind of used to do it. So.
Yeah, I feel like you have a lot of lessons embedded in there about just learnings from how to effectively delegate and manage others. As you're kind of creating systems, can you give an example of when the system failed and that told you that you needed to fix it?
Yeah, I would say that after I hired my cousin and my brother, because it failed because I didn't have the SOPs in place, right? I just showed them what to do and they just knew what to do because they saw me do it and I just kind of showed them what to do. So if I were to, and at the time when I dropped out of college, I moved back to live with my mom. So I was living at the house with my mom. This is like, 2019, right? 2020. So it was easy for them to just like learn. I'm like, hey, this is how you do it. But if I were to have my own warehouse, there were no SOPs in place to be able to actually bring somebody on and they'll know exactly what to do unless I showed them, which is part of the reason why, I went the 3PL route, because I'm like, hey, I'm just going to outsource this completely because that's just the best decision for our business right now. Instead of like having to run that internally, I'd rather just outsource that. So, not having those SOPs in place, not having a training and system in place for how to package the orders and ship them out, eventually led to when they couldn't do it anymore, nobody could do it. I was back to me doing it. And I was like, well, I can't do it again. So I got to find another source that will be able to handle this for me. So just being able to use wisdom on like, when to outsource, because sometimes, some companies, they have their own warehouse, they have their own employees and they do it in-house. I'm not in that season of my life right now to be able to do that. I actually have some inventory at my house that I'm in now, just so that I could my son is 3 years old and then my youngest is 4 months old. So I want them to learn as well. With 4 months old, can't really learn too much yet, but the 3-year-old, we're trying to get him to, learn a little bit more about the business. So, yeah.
Awesome. I'm curious, it's, you hire people and you've outsourced some things. Do you have both in-house employees and like external agencies that you work with to run the business?
Yes, and it's absolutely needed. So I do have internal employees. We're a small team of about 6, in combination of Almighty and CreateSpace. And then we do have external partners that we work with, which makes things a lot easier at times, versus having to hire like someone that is running paid ads like on a W-2, we have that outsourced, and they also able to do some done for you services as well. So having the mix of having 1099 contractors and W-2 employees is really key to, again, delegation and buying back my time, because really we get into entrepreneurship, right, for time freedom and financial freedom. But when we first get started, it's like, man, especially for those that may have got started and had a 9 to 5 job, they're like, man, I'm working 12-hour shifts now, or, after my 9 to 5, I'm working 5 to 9, or I'm staying up, to 2, 3 in the morning. And, yeah, it's just necessary that is part of the grind initially. But I always learned, that some mentors told me that, like, if you can't leave, right, your business for, let's say, a week without it like collapsing, then you haven't really reached entrepreneur status, right? You are a business owner. You really pretty much own a job, right? And so, like, when I had that revelation a couple years ago, I'm like, yeah, I need systems in place. I need automation in place. I need SOPs. Who can I hire internally that I can, we can pour into, and that we can help them grow as individuals as well? And what companies can we potentially outsource for some of the things that we need? Because that's the other thing when I first got started is, having a lot of people willing to help, but people that aren't necessarily skilled and experts in the areas that I need, right? So I can't train everybody up on what I learned the last 11 years. I got to hire somebody that's an expert that already knows what to do and can get it done. And that saves me even more time. Right. So.
Right. That organizational design component is so important to running a business. It's not just all about the hustle like it might be in the beginning. I'm curious. So you have in-house employees, you have contractors. How do you decide what you can outsource versus what you want to keep in-house?
Yeah, it comes down to more so the skill set that's needed and the learning curve that's needed. So, for example, when it comes to the 3PL, it made more sense since we were in the middle of still getting all the orders when they had to transition out of their role. It was going to be a lot quicker to just set that up and move the inventory into the warehouses versus hiring a couple more people to teach them how to do it. Right. So it was just a faster solution. Again, back to the urgency and the priority. And then, for example, when it comes to graphic design, that's something that I can outsource, and I have outsourced before. But I do have that internally now, because when it comes to graphic design, it's best to work with somebody long term that understands the style, that understand. So it's you don't have to keep putting in new requests and revisions because they get it, so it just depends on what department and what area within the business that is better that we should keep in-house, because it's more synergy versus this is the expertise that we can actually outsource. So, for example, paid ads is something that we have outsourced in the past, but now we're starting to bring it more internally, because it's a skill that we learned, and that's a skill that we can easily teach and train anybody up to do. Right. So yeah, it still comes down to the priority and the urgency and the time factor. What's going to give us more time in the end. So.
Yeah. And in the case of someone like a graphic designer, I would imagine that it's helpful to have them in-house kind of helping be a creative partner with you and evolve the brand alongside you and those types of things.
Yes. And customer service too, because customer service is something where you want to make sure that whoever's talking to the customer understands the company culture, understands our values, understand how to communicate to them. So customer service is something that I also will not outsource to. So.
Okay. That's actually a great segue into what do you look for in a hire, someone that you're going to bring in-house full-time, not necessarily contractor, but in-house.
Absolutely. So integrity is number one. Integrity, being able to keep your word and do what it is that you say that you will do. Experience is also huge, right? Because again, understanding, how much time are we going to have to spend in training Is this someone that's already skilled in this position that we're looking to hire? Or is it someone that has potential and we're going to have to spend a lot of time training them up, as well as their character, right? Who is this person? What do they believe in? What do they do? What is their life? What does their life look like? How can we help them, right? Because it's more so like our team. Because at the end of the day, as an entrepreneur, I'm a servant, right? So whoever I'm bringing on my team, I have to serve, right? And we have to be on the same page, same mindset, same values. And so I want to make sure that, is this someone that I can really help, right? And is this person also going to help and add value to the company? And will I be able to add value to this person's life? And does this person have a growth mindset? Right? Is this person focused on growing and becoming the best version of themselves? Is this person, focused on just material things, or does this person understand spiritual things, right? Like, these things matters for the work that we're doing with the brand, right? Since we are really helping people grow spiritually, as well as look good, right, while they're doing it. So those are some things that we look for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like you focus a lot on like the values and the cultural fit in addition to the hard skills. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I want to switch gears a little bit. So we've talked a lot about how we can scale businesses operationally, and I want to talk about how the finances kind of come in alongside that. So how do you, what patterns do you look for in your cash flow to determine when it's time to invest in the next thing?
Absolutely. So I learned probably when things started to take off in 2020, of course, profit margin is something that we look at, but profit margin is really a big key indicator as far as which design we need to double down on based off of customer acquisition costs, as well as, how many orders are we actually getting from this product? Is this product worth putting into production? Over and over and over again, right? Because some of the products that are a lower profit margin may not make sense, right? Versus our bomber jackets is our best seller. And so the average order value is anywhere between 135 to 200. So it makes sense to double down on those type of garments, right? So being able to understand the profit margins, as well as understand what it is that the people want, right? Because I could think that something's really dope, but once I show it to the market's going to actually show me if it's something that they would like and if there's something that they desire. So really understanding the demand and just understanding that you can make your first 6 to 7 figures off one product. Right. So I deal with a lot of business owners, not just in the fashion, entrepreneurship, e-commerce world, but in a whole bunch of different industries, product-based businesses, as well as service-based businesses that have all these different great offerings, which is great. But when you first get started, or if you're trying to scale from 6 figures to 7 figures or 7 figures to 8 figures, it's really good to just dial in on who's the one customer that you are trying to either solve their problem or meet the need and desire that they have. Do you understand their problems and their pain points or the desires that they have? And what's the one solution that you can provide, or that one product that you can provide that you can repeat and rinse and repeat and rinse and repeat? And so those are things that I think about. And those are how I start making decisions based off of demand, based off of focusing on one funnel, right? One problem, one solution, one funnel, one product, one service. They say that's the quickest way to a million, right? Is when you focus on one, right? One product, one service, one person, one problem, one solution, one funnel, one offer. So that's how we hit our first 6 figures. It was just being able to double down on that. And it was a hard decision because as a creative, right, we're creative. So we have all these different things that we want to, launch, oh, we got this and we got that and we got this and we got that. But then it's also a fine line of once you have what works, still being able to drop new products for all the customers that already bought that product, right? And so that was something that I had ran into 2021, 2022. It's I kept scaling that product, but I I was like hitting a ceiling in a sense, because COVID and then slightly after COVID, tariffs. So we would have some situations where sometimes we'll sell out, right? Sometimes we'll sell out and then we would have to turn the ads off because I didn't want to have so many people waiting for so long to get the product, right? And so, and at the time, like I pretty much bootstrapped, right? So like I don't have investors, but I leveraged like most of the financing that I've leveraged were grants, right? Grants and lines of credit, but majority of the finances that I leveraged were grants, which were, really great. And they came in handy when they did come in handy. But at one point when I was scaling and we sold out and we had to turn the ads off, because grants, they're not, they're a little bit sporadic, right? So if I like looking back at it, I probably would have been able to leverage a line of credit back then. So I didn't have to turn the ads off necessarily. But yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I have a follow-up that's related to that. You mentioned you could have probably used a line of credit to float some ads for a while. Today, how do you decide to take on financing versus fund by like reinvesting profits back into the business?
Yeah. So similarly, like how I had learned that I should have took that a line of credit or even a term loan. Back then, I was really big on, I don't want to borrow any money. I don't want to be in debt. And then I realized that wealthy people leverage OPM. So when I find myself in a situation where, okay, we sold out of this product, do we turn the ads off or do we double down and leverage some capital so that we could place a bigger order, right? Because at the time I was placing a certain amount. And so because I was splitting my budget between ads and product, right? But if I was just able to access capital so I can buy more product because it was already proven and double the ad spend, we would have made a lot more money. So like today, I keep those things in mind with those type of decisions that I have to make. Like, okay, if this is already proven and it's doing well, it makes sense to get $100,000 line of credit so that I could do this with the ads and I can do this with the restock. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's really helpful. And I think it's very common for entrepreneurs to be scared of taking on debt in the beginning, especially when things feel kind of shaky. You're like not sure how things are going to work out. But it can be a really powerful tool to fuel growth. So.
Absolutely. I think it's really risky when you don't have evidence, right? When you are borrowing capital without evidence, without proof of concept, then it's really risky. But once you have evidence, once you have proof of concept, once you have strangers buying your products, then you know that, especially strangers online, right? Then you know that you have something that works and that it's a little bit more like it's still a risk, but it's a little bit less of a risk because you have evidence. Without evidence is really, really tough. And also lenders normally don't lend without evidence and proof anyway. So, yeah.
Right. Totally. So you're also a coach here at NAV, business credit coach. When it comes to common questions and challenges that your clients come to you with about scaling, financing, those types of things, what would you say like one of the most common challenges is, and how do you help them through it?
Yeah, a lot of clients that are looking to build their business credit, a lot of times they're looking to access capital. And I think that, especially for creative entrepreneurs, the creativity part of the brand is one side, right? And the analytical number side of the brand is another side. So I see a lot of creative entrepreneurs struggle with their numbers, right? And so just being able to understand your profit and loss statement, be able to understand your balance sheet, be able to understand, the type of cash flow you have on a month-to-month basis is very, very important. And sometimes as entrepreneurs, we just on the go. And yes, at some point, like, it's important to outsource like an accountant or even like a tax strategist or a bookkeeper. But in the beginning stages, you got to look at your own books. You got to see how you spend your money. You got to see how much money's coming in and how much money's going out, what your break even number is, right? So just being able to, have the financial literacy as well as being able to understand to stay organized with the books. I think that lack of organization, I dealt with this when I was an entrepreneur as well, right? Just not understanding financial literacy and not understanding how to be organized, and not only having organized finances, but having an organized workspace. So like these are things that I've dealt with in my early stages that I still see some entrepreneurs deal with as well, and just not having the information or the right information, right? Because there's a lot of information out there. So sometimes people be like, yeah, I'm just trying to get some capital with my EIN, no docs, right? Because there's some videos out there that just, that's just like, all you need is EIN and you get business funding. And it doesn't necessarily work like that, right? So just making sure that, the foundation is set up is like the most important thing. Is like, okay, is the foundation set up, right? Do you have a bookkeeping system? Of course, you should have, a business bank account. You should have multiple business bank accounts, right? Like at least 2 to 5 banking relationships. It's really important to have, multiple business banking relationships because you just never know. And then also, if you have good relationships with banks, those are more opportunity to potentially access additional capital. I'm really big on, going where you already have relationships. So yeah, those are some things that are pretty common with those that are looking to build business credit.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I feel like this has been such a valuable episode to like really hear from someone who's scaled something from the ground up, and really has set something up to like be able to run without them. So thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you to our guest for sharing their story, and thank you for listening today. Keep in mind that every small business is unique and there is no such thing as one-size-fits-all advice, so only take what you find helpful. We look forward to next time.